A long time ago in a kingdom far away, there was a great king who loved his people very much. He worked hard to make their lives better, and he ruled wisely. However, the king had a problem. His wife could not have a baby. Year after year, the queen tried to get pregnant, but it just didn't happen. The king and the queen were very upset because they wanted to have a son or a daughter who would one day take over the kingdom. They tried everything, but nothing worked. Then one day, the queen heard about a secret cave hidden deep in the mountains. Legend said that if a woman bathed in the waters of a magical spring inside the cave, she would become pregnant. The only catch was that the water was guarded by a ferocious dragon. The queen decided that she had nothing to lose. She asked the king for permission to go to the cave and try the ritual. The king agreed and gave her a magic amulet that would protect her from the dragon's fire. When the queen reached the cave, she found the dragon sleeping. It was so big that its scales looked like huge rocks, and its teeth were sharp as swords. The queen crept closer to the spring and dipped her hand into the water. As soon as the water touched her skin, the dragon woke up and roared loudly. The queen screamed in fear and dropped her amulet. The dragon lunged at her, but at the last moment, the magic amulet activated and formed a shield around the queen. The dragon realized that it couldn't hurt her, so it retreated back to its lair. The queen wasted no time and quickly filled her cloak with magical water and ran away. When she got back to the castle, she bathed in the spring and waited for something to happen. A few weeks later, the queen discovered that she was pregnant. Everyone in the kingdom rejoiced, especially the king. He threw a huge party to celebrate the upcoming birth of his heir. But the king made one crucial mistake. He invited the royal sorcerer, an evil man who had always coveted the throne for himself. The sorcerer used his magic powers to eavesdrop on the king and queen and learned about their plan to leave the next in line for the throne to the baby. He hatched a wicked plot to steal the baby and raise him as his own. When the baby was born, the king and queen named him Prince Adrian. The sorcerer disguised himself as a jester and snuck into the nursery while everyone was celebrating. He put the real prince in a basket, put a cat inside the basket to keep the baby company, and left the nursery unnoticed. Meanwhile, he took the cat and left it in the forest nearby. Then he returned to the castle and waited for the right moment to strike. The king and queen were devastated when they discovered that their son was missing. They offered a reward of 1,000 gold coins to anyone who could find the prince. But the sorcerer made sure that nobody would find the real prince. He raised Adrian as his own, brainwashing him to believe that the king and queen were his real parents. Years passed and Prince Adrian grew into a fine young man, handsome and intelligent, but also arrogant and power-hungry. He didn't know that he was adopted, and the sorcerer kept a close eye on him, making sure that he wouldn't find out the truth. Meanwhile, the king and queen never gave up hope of finding their son. They searched the kingdom far and wide, but Adrian was nowhere to be found. The king fell ill and knew that he was nearing his mortal end. He called for his son, but it was Prince Eric, the prince of a neighboring kingdom, who came to his bedside. King and queen were overjoyed, because finally someone would continue their bloodline. As a token of gratitude, the king gave Eric a magic ring that would give him untold power. But when Eric put the ring on his finger, it transformed him into a vicious dragon. It turned out that the ring was cursed and Eric was destined to become a fearsome beast. Eric was furious. He blamed the king for his misfortune and vowed revenge. He attacked the castle, killing the king and queen and taking the throne for himself. Now, you might wonder what happened to the rightful heir, Prince Adrian. Well, it turns out that he too was searching for his origins. He had a feeling that he didn't belong in the sorceress' dark and gloomy castle and wanted to find his real parents. One day, Adrian ventured into the forest and stumbled upon the old cat from the basket. The cat recognized him and meowed loudly. Then, it started walking towards the castle, and Adrian followed curiously. As they approached the castle, Adrian saw a group of people gathered in the courtyard. They were there to collect the reward for finding the missing prince. Adrian hid behind a tree and listened intently. He heard his own name being called and learned that he was the missing prince. Overjoyed, he ran towards the crowd, but the sorcerer noticed him and cast a spell that transformed Adrian into a bird. Adrian flew out of the window and landed on the shoulder of a beautiful princess, who had come to the castle to be courted by Prince Eric. The princess was kind and compassionate, and when she learned about Adrian's story, she promised to help him break the sorcerer's curse. She took him to an old wizard who lived in a hut deep in the woods. The wizard brewed a magic potion that would turn Adrian back into a human. But it was risky and painful, and Adrian had to be brave. Meanwhile, Prince Eric was preparing for his coronation. He was vain and cruel, and all the people in the kingdom hated him. Even the royal family disowned him, except for the sorcerer, who was the only one who supported him. On the day of the coronation, Adrian and the princess arrived at the castle. She distracted Eric while Adrian snuck into the throne room and confronted the sorcerer. They fought fiercely, but Adrian was too powerful and defeated his uncle. The sorcerer was so ashamed of himself that he disappeared in a flash of lightning. Eric was furious when he learned that someone had taken away his power. He attacked Adrian, but the princess intervened and cast a spell that transformed Eric back into a human. However, the spell also revealed Eric's true form, which was that of a hideous beast. All the people in the kingdom were shocked and appalled by Eric's true form. They had always hated him, but now they despised him. Eric was so ashamed and humiliated that he fled the castle and disappeared forever. In the end, Adrian became the rightful heir to the throne and ruled wisely and fairly. He married the princess and they lived happily ever after. The king and queen were finally reunited with their son, and they were so happy that they started to build a new wing onto the castle to accommodate their entire family. And so, the kingdom prospered under the rule of Prince Adrian, the lost heir who had finally found his way home. The end.